It could be argued that within gaming, the survival horror genre is one of the hardest to get right. I say this mainly due to the delicate balance of challenge, tension and resource management that must be just right in order for such a game to succeed. Signalis at a glance is the offspring of Metal Gear Solid and Resident Evil from the original PlayStation, with a dash of Blade Runner for good measure. But are the signals it's giving off positive, or is it a terrifying ordeal? Well, thank you to the publishing team for the review code, and now let's find out. Signalis is set in a dystopian future in which the solar system is largely governed by a political, totalitarian entity known as the Nation. Their settlements are run by a workforce consisting of two main classes of cybernetic units, Gestalt and Replica. Gestalt handles the administrative and leadership roles, while Replica handles physical labour. You play as a Replica unit known as Elster, who awakens in a crashed ship and begins to search for her missing Gestalt partner. Leaving the shipwreck, the snowy road leads her to a mining facility where the inhabitants have gone rogue and insane, and she must traverse through hostile areas to find her partner. In terms of gameplay, as already alluded to, this equates to a top-down survival horror with puzzle elements, resource management and a heavy focus on the obscure story. The flow of gameplay sees the player controlling Elster. She can be armed, healed, and being a cyborg can also use modifications such as a cybernetic eye that can take pictures. There is a pretty large emphasis on resource management, and she will need to attempt to solve puzzles whilst carrying the right items at that time. Those who have played similar survival horror games like Resident Evil will feel right at home with this one. Elster has a limited amount of pocket space but will be able to drop stuff off at the red storage boxes in the saving rooms. In terms of items, they can be inspected or combined with other items, which is usually the way to create a sort of key that will lead you closer to your objective. For the most part, puzzles are pretty varied and require some thought to resolve. Luckily, there are many documents and notes lying about that hold important clues. On one particular instance, you must tap into different radio frequencies in order to obtain a code for a safe, or drain a basement by changing the flow of water in 3 different pipes. I personally found the puzzles quite gratifying when completed, and many will require the player to consult snippets of information to solve. I never got too stuck, but it is important to bear in mind, of course, that your experience may differ. I found that taking screenshots using the Switch's photo button really helped out, and I didn't experience any backtrack fatigue as the puzzles are cleverly thought out. Whilst it is advisable to avoid combat whenever possible, for the times it isn't, foes can be dispatched by firing at them when the red squared cursor shrinks to its smallest size, causing enemies to drop down, thus allowing you to stomp on them and knock them out. There are also defensive items that come in the form of electric cattle prods, which will stun the enemy, although it is best to use these when they are close to each other, creating an arc that jumps on any unfortunate enemies ganging up on you at that point. Enemies are also sensitive to loud sounds, and although can be taken down with a few shots, they will eventually rise up from the dead after some time. There are thermite flares that can dispose of the enemies properly, making sure that they do not return. Again, as with every item you collect on your journey, there will be a finite amount, so planning is key. You'll come across some bosses that are not too bad to defeat once their pattern has been learnt. The map, although not available on the heads-up display, can be opened with a press of a button and is clearly labelled with room names and pending interactable objects. This is extremely helpful without making the game too easy. The majority of the game will see Elster climbing up and down the many levels of the mining facility, and having this minor quality of life feature implemented did truly enhance the enjoyment and flow of the game. Later on in the game, a few quality of life systems are removed, increasing the difficulty and the tension. As far as the controls go, Elster is easy to control, there are no tank controls here at all, and my main criticism is the lack of a quick turn manoeuvre, plus aiming at enemies can be a tad fiddly at first, but these are the sort of control quirks traditionally expected from games of this genre. There are occasional first person sections, and during these, looking around with the right stick did feel quite slow and heavy. Granted, it was done to set the tone of the game, but having it move at a faster pace would have made the difference. I enjoyed the gameplay and a return to the survival horror formula that made this genre so unique and thrilling back in the mid-90s. Although at a glance it seems like the developers have gone for the top-down old school approach, they've done it by getting the important things right that makes the gameplay enjoyable. I did feel the tension during my playthrough, though perhaps not as much as other games in the genre, but gameplay scores 18 out of 20. Controls avoid a few of the outdated staples of the genre while sticking with a couple of the others, but on the whole they get 17 out of 20. Visually, Signalis uses a pixelated art style akin to games from the PS1 era. Both the protagonist and enemies are composed of 3D models and 2D sprites to create fluid animations blended with a pixel perfect look, and it does work very well. This is true for both the gameplay and cutscenes, and its minimalistic pixel style is one of the strongest of its kind on the Switch so far. The palette used to colour the world is composed of dark greys, blacks and reds, and the game can become very low lit in some parts. There are 2 filters that can be applied to the game, these being CRT and film grain, and the font size is absolutely fine. Both of the aforementioned filters really do add to the 5th console generation feel, and the animations are smooth and on point. The effects such as the screen glitches and the static, especially when low on health, are a clever reminder that the protagonist is a machine, and the menus and overall presentation of the game suit the tone and style very well, whilst perhaps mimicking Konami's famous Spy franchise, which is no bad thing. During my playthrough I encountered no glitches or frame drops at all. As far as the audio goes, there's a minimalistic approach to the original soundtrack, albeit what's available is moody and fitting with the genre. The best part are the sound effects coming from the derelict androids when you have been spotted, as they wail like banshees as they surround the player. Even saving the game has an eerie sound attached to it. Visuals nail the era they pay homage to, and the overall aesthetic is great. They score 18 out of 20. Audio, whilst minimal, is effective and appropriate and gets 17 out of 20. Signalis costs £15.99 and regional equivalents are on your screen now. A physical version is available from Play Asia at this moment in time, and we do have a link in the description where you can save 5% off of an order from there if interested. Otherwise, it does appear to be getting a Western physical release in February of next year. Whilst it can be finished in under 10 hours, there is a lot of additional lore to find, as well as many Silent Hill references throughout your playthrough and alternative endings to pursue should you be up for another run through. Its production values are also impressive considering the size of the team behind it, and value scores 17 out of 20. To conclude, Signalis gets many necessary things right in order to become a great survival horror game. Those old enough to remember when the Resident Evil and Silent Hill franchises came out will really enjoy this top-down blend of alien and Lovecraftian storytelling. The flashbacks and the lack of narration really help keep the player glued to the screen in hopes of slowly unearthing what happened in the facility and to your partner, and the fusion of styles and themes has really made this game a modern classic in its own right. Signalis gets a SwitchUp score of 87%. Thank you everybody for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. A big thank you to Azdin over at Grinning Wolf Games for writing this one for us. Please do check out his channel. There'll be a link to it in the top pinned comment. Don't forget, if you are looking for eShop credit to pick this game up, or anything else for that matter, you can get your eShop card by using our website switchup.gg if you are in the EU or US regions, and you can save yourself 10% off the price by using code SwitchUp. There's also a link to Play Asia down there, as I alluded to earlier. Use the link and use the code and you can get yourself 5% off of an order from there if you want to pick this up before its Western release. A quick thank you to our Patreons and our new channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.